Welcome to The Who Project. I'm your host, Paul Gittens, where I sit down with leading professionals, artists, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. Each share their definitions of success, past and present, how they differ, if at all, and what milestones they've set for the next chapter of their lives. This isn't just any podcast. It's a celebration of real stories from real people. Together, we'll explore the choices that have shaped their paths, the challenges they've conquered, and how they bravely carved out lives on their own terms. Each episode is a treasure trove of insights, tools, and inspiring tales to help you ignite your own journey. So buckle up and get ready for some great conversations. Vinesh, thank you. Thank you for joining us today on Legacy Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, when I ask people to come on the show, it's always people that inspire me, right? And I always talk about frequency and how energy connects, right? So I always believe like from the moment we met, we had this connection. And then, oh my God, we find out that, you grew up in the same community, your family did what they do. We'll get into all of that and how we've kind of like this energy has been circling around for a long time. So 2018, I believe, is when we first met. Right?
Yeah.
You were at an ad agency, a media planner. I came in probably to pitch you whatever we were selling at that time in outdoor, and we just hit it off, And I thought I thought it was interesting from that moment. You kind of know when you find your people.
100%.
Right?
For sure. Yeah.
And so, because you being in the business, people come in, they come out, like, you know what I mean? Like you're constantly all the different media channels and all the different reps that are trying to sell you, over the years. Now specifically, you're not at home, but, just a lot of people you've come to know over the years, right? But when you meet somebody, they're your peoples, right?
Yeah, you've been my people, that's for sure.
I've enjoyed watching you, and I'd say grow up in the industry, right? Because, 18, we're in 24. It's been a
And I was young when I started.
Yeah, right. So now you've grown up, and I've watched it, and I've seen you go from media planner to senior account director to entrepreneur, all of this in the last number of years. So kudos to you, man. What I wanted to do though is I really wanted to get started with. I haven't done it this way before, so you're my test dummy, if you will.
Cool.
I really wanted to get right into like who you are, right? Because I think that, so much of life we don't understand about ourselves, right? Because we're never given the opportunity to really ask those really hard questions, right? So I thought, let me start off with the hardest question I think today. And it's really going to be who you are, not what you do for a living, not that you're a son, brother, a grandson, none of that, right? I really just want to get into who you think you are. That really speaks to your core values.
Yeah. So when you sent me these questions to look over before today,
yeah,
it stopped me in my tracks really to read the first question. I'm like, oh, what did I get myself into? But I think it is very difficult for people to be introspective, and I think a lot of people go their entire life without really being truly introspective. So, I took the question as a challenge, but I think basically I'm a simple person. There's not a lot to me other than I like the things that make me happy. I care about my family, my friends, and I obviously care about, the things that I spend my time with and behind.
Yeah.
But I'm really and truly just a simple person, just trying to go about life, being a good person, being good to others, and that's it.
So do you find that challenging, especially, as we balance between corporate Canada and your personal life? Like, do you find it difficult to straddle that and to be that person that you just said you are?
Yeah, I think for anyone right now, it's more difficult than ever. There's a lot of increased external pressures to be a certain type of person in this society. And so I'm not going to lie, I do catch myself, realigning with my values, or like maybe caring about things that, I think that I shouldn't be caring about. So yeah, I think it is a difficult thing. And I think for a lot of people, it's just sticking to who you are as a person. But I think it's okay to be figuring yourself out as you go.
I totally agree with you, man. I think the whole life journey is, evolution and evolving, right? Then, I live by, the thought process. If we're not learning, right, then what's the purpose? I always say, quite frankly, we might as well be on the other side of the grass, right? If I'm not learning, if I'm not evolving, if I'm not trying to understand myself more, then, and the same principle, I attach to professionally, right? Whether it's good or bad. If I'm at a place where it may be challenging, right? But there's a reason it's challenging, right? So what can I learn from that experience? So I agree with you 100%. We should always be trying to evolve.
There's actually another podcast that I was listening to.
Okay.
And one thing that they mentioned on this podcast, like really resonated with me is basically in a sense that literally like biologically, we are not the same person that we were 5 years ago or when we were a kid.
Okay.
Like on a cellular level.
Yeah.
But also just our personality, our likes, our dislikes. Like obviously you have, like your temperaments and things that stuck with you as you were a child. But like you are not at all, you probably wouldn't recognize yourself, 15 years ago or 20 years ago. And I think that's like important to understand is that like you truly are a different person, as time goes by and you have to adapt to the world around you.
And again, I agree with you. And I think that even that, should be the testament, like how you live your life, right? To constantly evolve, right? And to change and to grow, right? And as you grow as a human being, based on those experiences that you've had in life, right? It should make you a better person, right? That's the ultimate goal in my mind. Anyways, talk to me, man. Talk to me about your origin. Where are your people from?
So my people, I think, would be the Trinidadians of the world.
Okay, Trinis.
Yeah. So both my parents were born and semi-raised in Trinidad.
Okay.
They came up to North America at a fairly young age, so in their early teens.
Oh, wow.
I think my dad, a little bit younger than my mom. My mom moved to New York when she left Trinidad, and my dad moved to Canada. But yeah, both my parents are Trinidadian.
Okay, so you went to New York and then eventually came to Toronto.
Yeah.
How long did she spend in New York? A few years?
Yeah. I think up until she finished, or up until university. So up until she finished university.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So she actually went to school there.
She went to school there.
Yeah.
So why did she come to Toronto?
For my dad.
Oh, so, yeah. Okay.
For love.
Okay. I always love these stories, right? It's because it's like, okay. So they met, did they know each other from Trinidad?
So their families knew each other and were in the same kind of circle.
Got it.
So they kind of like grew up around each other. And the story is apparently that like our families like didn't want them to be together. But my dad was just like madly in love with my mom. And my mom apparently told him no multiple times when he asked her to marry him. They are still happily married.
So how many years have they been married now?
I think it'd be going into like 40 plus years. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
But my dad, he grew up here in Canada, and my mom is like a true New Yorker. Yeah.
Wow. And you were born here?
I was born here. Yeah.
Okay.
In the beautiful town of Ajax, Ontario.
Were you born in Ajax?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Born and raised.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So that makes you second generation Canadian, right?
Yeah.
Makes you a second generation Canadian. So born in Ajax, man. You have siblings?
I do have siblings. I would say 3, technically 2, but 3. Yeah. We have like an adopted sister, essentially.
Right. Okay.
But I call my sister, yeah. But
okay.
3.
Okay. And you are the eldest?
I am the eldest, yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
34 years old. My brother is a close 1 year and 3 days behind me. And my sister is 7 years younger than I am.
Okay. Wow. So tell me about your childhood. What's your first, your first memories as a child growing up in Ajax?
Honestly, I think it would be when my brother was born. and just him and I playing. We were like very attached to each other. So not like, and jealous of each other, vying for attention. But yeah, my earliest memories are like playing with him as kids, being in school and begging to be with my brother, even though we were in separate classrooms. They had to let us have sleep time together. So those are probably like the earliest memories that I have.
So you said he's 1 year and 3 months? Is that what you said?
1 year and 3 days. Yeah. So I was
Whoa.
born March 16th, 1990. And he was born March 19th, 1991.
So that's like, seriously, that's like Irish twins.
So people just thought we were twins.
Yeah, for sure. You know, there's that old saying, Irish twins, right? Like being that close in age. Like our middle child and last are 16 months apart, but you guys are like, bang, like back to back, right? So you guys super close?
No, I wouldn't say that we're not close, but we are very distinctly like different people.
Wow. Okay.
And opposites in a lot of ways. But we've like over the years, like we've had our ups and downs, but never like estranged from each other or anything like that. But yeah, he's just like a very different person, and I appreciate him for the person that he is. Maybe he doesn't always appreciate me for the person that I am, but like especially now, and we'll get into it. But like we work together now in some aspects.
Oh yeah,
with my business, which is nice and brings us together, and we're like reconnecting on a whole bunch of other levels that we haven't in like the past.
Okay,
few years,
we'll get into that. So that's an element I didn't know. So I mean, awesome. So you said hanging out, being with your brother, being super close, 1 year and 3 days, coming up together in Ajax. In that time, was it very diverse?
I want to say no that time. Like, I mean, relative to other places, I'm sure, yes, it was, but.
So let me rephrase that then. When you were growing up, did you know that you were different? Like you guys were different than say the rest of the kids in the neighborhood or the kids you went to school with?
Yeah. So I think my parents like drilled it into us from a very young age that, my mom would look at me and she'd say, you see the color of your skin? No one else sees you as Canadian. Only you see you as Canadian. And because of the color of your skin, you have to work 10 times harder. You have to earn people's respect. You're starting from a different place than other people. So from a very, very young age, I went to school in a Montessori school.
Yeah.
Predominantly white, rich people.
Yes.
And I think, they were trying to save me from, what they went through when they came to Canada. Well, or the US and went to school. So
it's not uncommon, man. Like it seems to be, the visible minority or people that are, racialized people, that come to this country. So many people I've had conversations with that say that, we were always told that we have to be better. We always have to be 10 times better because we're not going to be treated equally, and we kind of, we hold that, right? And we internalize it. And that's how we've navigated our way through life.
100%, yeah. Because a part of who you are.
And you're either going to rise to the occasion, right? Or you're not. And we'll get to that because that's all part of like for me and me doing the work on me now, right? And part of this is the reason why we're doing Legacy. It's just really trying to understand my motivations, right? Or I like to call my misguided motivations. And if you were motivated to excel because you were coming from a place of which you could have internalized as deficiency, right? Like you're coming
disadvantage.
Yeah, disadvantage. I'm not equal to, therefore I have got to work even harder is a challenge. Did that affect you in your schoolwork? Like did you like rise to that occasion?
Yeah.
Or were you challenged?
Without like, I don't want to consider myself like a teacher's pet growing up, but essentially more or less that's what I was.
Okay.
But when I'm looking back, like I think for me, that was just like an overcompensation of exactly what we're talking about. It was like me wanting to feel accepted, and it's me, wanting to be able to fit in, my peers.
Yep.
Like I'm a person right now. Like I have a wide friend group.
Yep.
And that started when I was very young. It was like I want to be friends with everyone. I want to be liked, and my brother was like the exact opposite, very close in age, but he was kind of like, I don't have to prove anything to anyone. But at a young age, it's like, like that's that's kind of where I sat.
You know what? That is interesting. because the more of these podcasts I do and get into these deep conversations with people, insightful conversations, the more you see how in common we really are. So the reason I said that is that I was that guy. I'm you, right? I wanted to be liked. I knew that I was very different, right? And it was so overtly pointed out that I was different, and I wasn't a fighter. So if I'm not going to be a fighter, then I've got to be, the coolest, funniest, nicest guy that everybody liked, right? And then speak to my older brother. He was like, yeah, forget that, man. You tell me anything, I'm just going to whoop your ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And so isn't that
different ways about going about
right?
it? Yeah.
But isn't that interesting though, right? That, it could have gone either way for us. We could have been them and they could have been us. Who knows? Right?
Not that either way is
better.
Yeah.
No. I know. So you were a teacher's pet. Yeah. You did well through Montessori school, and you went to what grade in Montessori?
All the way up until high school. It's actually funny because I was pretty close with some of my cousins growing up.
Okay. But they had Ajax as well?
Scarborough, Ajax, okay. And even my cousins in the States, and none of them went to a private school. And so when I was in private school, I just had this thing where I wanted to feel normal. I wanted to be like my cousins. I wanted to have friends like my cousins had, and do things like they did.
Yeah.
I just have the freedom that they did. I felt in private school, it was all about the work. You go home, everyone's competing with each other. It was like that. So
yeah.
So yeah.
So that must have been difficult straddling those two worlds, right?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult straddling those two worlds. But yeah, I begged my parents when it came to high school to basically be a normal kid. I'm like, you owe it to me to put me in a normal public high school.
Yeah.
So I was actually due to go to a private art school because I loved art when I was in school, and I would say at the time I was somewhat talented in art for my age. I was a creative kid, and so a lot of my teachers at the time were proposing that I go to this private art school, and I begged and begged and begged not to go.
So what high school did you go to?
So I went to J. Clark Richardson in Ajax.
JCR, as they call it now.
Yeah. And it's funny. This is how bad I wanted to go to a regular public school, is that when I went, I didn't know one person. There's one person I knew that was in the high school.
Wow.
So it's not like I was begging to go with
your friends.
This group of friends that I had or anything like that. I knew no one.
Wow. That's so interesting. Cole, our middle son, just graduated from JCR.
Oh, cool.
And you went to JCR.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Literally just graduated. Actually, ceremony's next Thursday. So you went to JCR. You went from 9 through to 12?
Yes. Yeah. All the way through 12.
And what was high school like for you? Because now you're coming in, you're telling me you need one person, you had to get in there, and clearly you've outlined that.
Yeah.
You're the guy people like. So you made friends quickly, I would assume.
Yeah. I think obviously the things that were important to me in prior when I was in private school still mattered. So I cared about my personal success,
right.
my grades.
Yeah.
That's where I derived the majority of my personal value from.
Right.
Was how well I was doing in school. So as long as I was doing well in school, I was good. But I was girl crazy when I went to high school. And then the private school that I went to was very small.
Right.
And it was people you grew up with. So there was this whole new pool of people that I've never met before. And I think my priorities did start to shift a little bit to the social aspect of expanding my friend circle, hanging out, feeling like a normal kid.
Yeah.
And on the the work side of school, that was relatively very easy compared to
sure. Yeah, private school.
So I was kind of
I got this.
I was kind of skating by on that, and then I was more focusing on my social relationships. So
So did you have any role models that you kind of looked towards? Is that was your beacon as a teenager? Or were you a lot like most teenagers, like myself, just who you saw, in media or in sports, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or was it your parents?
I wouldn't say I had like a clear role model, but like when I was younger, for sure, my dad, and still now, I respected him a lot. For example, just like being able to put me in a private school among all these other people where I didn't think I belonged in the first place. Like I respected him for that.
Yeah.
And my parents have this like unreal work ethic that they applied to their business.
Yeah.
So I think I appreciated that from like a very young age. And then I had a couple uncles in my life that I just like looked at them and like in awe. And that had a lot to do with like their confidence, how they carried themselves. They're very like classy people, but like down to earth. And it had a lot to do with their character, and less so maybe with their success. But those are the kind of the people that I looked at and followed in my life.
So not direct role models or mentors, but just people that you kind of said, this is who I kind of want to be when I grow up because I like their values.
Yeah.
I like what they stand for.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think like good things just kind of like gravitated to those people, my parents, these uncles that I'm mentioning. Yeah. And I saw that, and I saw that it was like a function of who they were as a person versus just like what they're just actually doing.
Okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. Cause I think we kind of identify who we want to be. And even though those people might not be direct role models for us or mentors, we kind of identify the kind of person that you want to be, right? So if you want to be a really good person, a hardworking person, right? And all of those values are important to you.
Yeah.
And you see that in someone else, you can kind of like look to that as your beacon, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
And in the contrast, I mean, if you choose to be a criminal, you know what I mean? You're going to look for criminals as your role models and mentors, exactly. Kind of thing, right? So yeah. So you get through high school now, grade 12, and now it's time to decide what post high school is going to look like.
Yeah.
So you applied to university.
Yes, I think I applied to like every university in Canada. So when I was in high school, I had parents who basically, wanted the typical things for their kid: become a lawyer or a doctor. Lots of people are saying this, but it's true. Your parents wanted you to become a lawyer or a doctor.
You applied to almost every university in Canada. Your parents wanted you to be the typical. I hate, this is the thing that I personally detest the most, when your parents did that to you, right? You're going to be so-and-so and you're going to do so-and-so. And it's like, to me, it's like.
Yeah, it was, I think it was like a not so subtle, indirect way, like trying to get me to be like one of those.
Because in their mind, that's a respectable.
It's respectable. And career. To them, it's like guaranteed success in their mind, right?
Yeah. Which is so far from the truth.
Yes. Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So far from the truth.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, the goal was I'm going to be a lawyer.
Okay.
And so I applied to programs in university with the mindset that I am going to be a lawyer. So number one, I was like, what program can I do and get the best grade in?
Right.
And still apply to be a lawyer. So funny thing is that you could actually do any undergrad.
Yeah.
And use that as leverage to get into law school. Maybe I should have done something else, but things would have got different. But so I went into psychology, partly because I did have a little bit of an interest in just like reading the course description of like what psychology was. Sure. So that's what I did. I applied to all these schools. I had my pick for where I wanted to go. And, the decision was whether or not I was going to stay home and commute to a university, or if I was going to go away and live at university.
Sure.
My parents really wanted me to stay at home and bribed me with a car. So I was like, oh yeah, the best of both worlds. Like I'm going to, I'm going to go to university, have my freedom, and have a car. Oh, this is great. So I ended up going to York University for psychology.
Well, that was a bit of a commute still, right?
Yes. Yeah. I did take the 407 every day.
Did you?
Yeah.
They had to pay for the luxury of you being
York,
home.
Yeah. And I really did get the most of both the worlds, because I did end up living on campus at York University for a couple of years.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
So you just complained to them and said it's just too far, the drive's too much?
Yeah. I think it was like 3 years in to the program, I was like, oh, this is something I need to do.
Sure. You're the firstborn. Sure. So Why do you think they didn't want you to go away?
I think it was just like a protection thing. I think that they didn't feel like it was like a necessary, like it definitely wasn't like a financial reason.
Yeah,
because we had the means that if that's really what I really wanted to do, they would have done it. And then I think also I grew up very dependent and connected to my parents. So as much as I want to put it on them as the reason why I didn't go,
yeah.
I think that they were still like my comfort zone, and I wanted to be with them.
Well, family is definitely a core value for not only you, but your entire family, right? You've mentioned so far about cousins and uncles and, right?
Yeah.
And being close.
Yeah.
Right? So I get that. No, I was just curious because, Cole's going away, right? And I'm dealing with that and how that's gonna, you as a parent, right? You're really protective. Like if you can even afford to do it, that's the first thing, right? Because we couldn't afford to do it when Jay was, going off to university. So now we can afford to do it, but part of you wants to protect.
Yeah.
Right. Wants to protect, but you still have to let them go if they want to, right? Like,
yeah. I think at that,
that's hard.
I think it's it is kind of crazy at that age that people are deeming you like an adult. Like number one, you have to figure out like
I know
what you want to do for the rest of your life is kind of like the direction.
Well, that's crazy in itself, right?
And then on top of that, now you're gonna be out on your own. Like I obviously I think it's a good thing, but it's also it is a scary thing, and I can't tell you honestly that at that age that I was a mature enough person to be taking care of myself.
Yeah, like I mean, like it's difficult enough to realize that. Oh, wait a second. I'm 18 and I can go to school. I don't have to go to school today. Like there's not going to be a call from the office, right? That says I'm not there.
Exactly.
Right. So I think that's difficult. And I think also the transition from high school to university, right? Or post-secondary in general, beyond that, like the course load and, right. That, and really understanding that next chapter in your life, becoming a young adult is difficult. Right. So you're there, you got into university, it was psychology. Was it psychology with and marketing? Was it just psychology?
Yeah, I did psychology and then a minor in marketing. And I can't even tell you exactly why I got into that, but I did see like the synergies between the two.
Okay.
And I think I always had just like a knack or like an interest in marketing and advertising. And that probably has to do with, again, like my parents' business. And I was like interested in, what I could do for them is kind of probably where that came from.
So you get to the end of university, right? And that university life.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, well, what do I do now? Did you know that did you have any idea of what was going to happen post university?
So the stress levels were like through the roof at that point. The pressure is on of like what you're going to do. So with a psychology degree, you more or less, like you can't do anything with just your bachelor's.
Okay.
Like a real professional career sense. Like you have to further your education. Otherwise like the pool of opportunities is relatively small.
Right.
And so I still had my mindset on going to law school.
Okay.
So I think it ended up taking me 5 years to finish university. I think I took an extra year to upgrade some of my classes so that I would be, a better applicant for law school. So when I was leaving, I took a year off of school where I was just studying for the LSAT.
Okay. Quotes.
So
the air quotes.
I bought all the books. I had courses online, all the material that I needed to study.
Okay.
But I barely studied in this year. But just my heart wasn't in it. And it was really when this is when an introspective moment of my life, a deep introspective moment of my life. And for a lot of people, obviously, it's a transitional time. But I had to really think about who I was as a person. Is this something that I really want to do? I had spoken to lawyers at the time and done volunteer work and stuff in the legal field to see if this is something that I wanted to do. More actually to get references, but also to see if this is something I wanted to do.
Okay.
And a lot of people who are in the field told me, if this is something you are going to do, think long and hard about it, because they were actually telling me that they were unhappy or they wish that they did things different, because you have to have a real passion to go into that and enjoy it, because it's not easy.
Right.
So so that's when I started to like really think about like my direction and where I wanted to go. And at the same time, I had a good friend of mine that I was hanging out with often, and he was a copywriter for like a big agency.
Yep.
My creative agency. And we would hang out often, and he would be telling me these like briefs that he's working on. And I thought this is like the sexiest thing ever. I was like, this is so amazing. You get to be so creative and you're working with all these cool brands. And so at the same time, during that year of like actually semi studying for the LSAT, I did end up writing the LSAT at some point. And, you know, without my parents knowing, I actually applied for these marketing advertising programs as a backup.
So you said without them knowing. What was the reason of not telling them? What was the risk?
I guess I assumed that like they would think I was like copping out of like the whole law school thing and just getting overwhelmed by the process. But my heart like really wasn't in it. And so I not only wrote the LSAT, but I also like applied for schools. And part of the application process is making a statement as to like why you want to be in law school.
Yeah.
And I remember struggling with this so much. Like I just thought what I was writing was bullshit.
Right.
It was just like, it didn't make sense for me.
Yeah.
And so I had like, deep cognitive dissonance about the decision to go to law school. So, and I think I didn't want to disappoint my parents, to them. I don't think they would have even understood. And they honestly didn't what marketing and advertising was and entails. And so without having to deal with the headache of my own stress and plus them and how they felt about the decision, I gave myself the backup choice applying to these programs. So when the time came, I would have a decision.
So what happened with law school? Like was did you get in? Did you not get in?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I'm very proud that I scored like the average, and I barely studied. So like to me, that was a win. But I didn't get into any law schools, so that was off not necessarily off the table because I could have
rewritten it. But kudos to you for doing it.
Right? Yeah, it was a process, and I'm proud that I did it. And even like sometimes now I was like, should I just like go write it for fun? Actually try to do what I didn't do back then. But I obviously like when I didn't go, like I remember my parents were like telling everyone like, oh, my son's gonna be a lawyer, he's going to law school, and I had to like face that, from friends and family and whatever. So that I think that was tough. But I was like so interested in the advertising and marketing program that I was going into that I like mentally pushed through all of that, and it didn't really get me down too much.
So post university, right? Took some time off. You wrote the LSAT. When did you decide to apply to advertising and why? Right?
Yeah, it was in that year off. So like,
okay.
Yeah, it was literally while studying for the LSAT.
Okay.
Doing my applications, doing my volunteer
because your copywriter friend was telling you.
Yes, yeah. So and I like once I kind of like went down that road, I just couldn't stop like researching of like, the industry and So
you did it. So then you got into which program did you get into?
Yeah, it was the creative advertising program at Seneca College.
Okay.
So it was a 2-year program, just all encompassing like media, creative. And then in the second year, they kind of like divert you into either like the media side or you stay on like the creative side.
And you made your choice to the media side.
Yeah.
Did you want to?
Honestly, like very reluctantly, like. So I always saw myself, I think I mentioned earlier, as like a very like creative person. Like I had a deep interest in like art growing up, and when I applied to the program, I thought I was going to be like essentially like a copywriter or go into graphic design, like something like along those lines.
Yeah. So how did you end up in media?
Yeah. So I had a professor in my first year who taught our media class, and I did well in the class, and he really took to me. I think our personalities just clicked, and he had asked me to be his teaching assistant. And so it was only offered to like one student in the whole program, and it was a paid opportunity.
Okay.
And he was a very convincing man. So, so I thought to myself, even though I, go into the media side, if I become a TA, like, who's stopping me from like really going back to creative if I really wanted to? So yeah, that's what I ended up doing. And so I was actually a TA for my second year of college, and I partially helped teach the media.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I marked a lot of tests.
Wow. Did you enjoy it?
I loved it, but it was definitely the most challenging thing I had done in my life up to that point.
Why?
It's a very, very demanding program. It was like a small pool of people who were in the program at this campus. And we all became essentially like family because we were there day in, day out. It was a lot of work, a lot of hours, a lot of after school hours. Yeah, a lot of people like dread group work.
Yeah.
Everything was group work.
Wow.
This is like the complete opposite of what I had done in university. It's theory-based, writing essays, individual, for the most part, work. It was like, it was the
and this is more
complete opposite.
practical, right? You have to apply. Okay.
Yeah, very practical. But yeah, it was challenging. And just even like, personalities-wise, like I was like essentially like living with these people day in and day out.
So
but I loved it.
So you get to the end of it. Do you feel that the program prepared you for what life was going to be like after?
So I want to say yes and no. I remember like when I first started working outside of the industry, like I was like, wow, the only thing I got out of my program was like jargon. like I know what they're saying when they're like saying this specific term, or I know what a CPM is, or whatever. But no, we did get like a lot of insight into the industry and how it works. There was an opportunity for us to go to New York Ad Week, which was like incredible. We got to go to actually in agencies in the program. We put together like our own plans. We pitched at like creative agencies in Toronto, got like real briefs, like so things like that. But it wasn't like the reality of what the industry was.
Right.
So like, I feel like when I first started working, it was like net new. It was like everything that we learned was kind of like thrown out the window.
So how did you get your first job?
So there was like a placement component to the program. So I was like, there was an internship. I think it was like a 3-month internship at the end of the program that you had to land.
Work for free?
I think it was paid, but a lot of people end up working for free.
Okay.
I just got lucky in that sense.
Okay.
But I went to an agency where I worked on the Dairy Farmers of Canada account as an intern.
Yeah.
And then I got hired after that.
So now this is life after school, right? And I like to say this is when the curtain of life is revealed and you go, shit, I've got to do this for the next 40 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How did you feel? Like now you started to settle into it. You got past the internship. You got your first job. Like, what did you start to feel like? Do you still have that excitement about working?
Yeah. I did have the excitement. Like I was working on like cool campaigns. I really felt like an integral part of the team. I think I was definitely overwhelmed. Like I remember specifically, it took me a long time to just kind of like fathom how an agency worked. Like I didn't even realize like business could be so big.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people were involved on every single level. And like the systems and processes that they had in place, like it took me a while to put everything together mentally.
So let me ask you this question then. As you were going through this and trying to acclimate yourself to corporate Canada, did you ever think, well, wait a second, maybe I'll just go work for my parents?
Yeah. Yeah. I did have my moments where I was, number one, I was like looking at the money that I was making at the time when I had first started. I wasn't expecting to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
But then I was also, looking at the ladder to move up.
Yeah.
And, speaking to the people I was working under, and they were kind of telling me like, how much they make and I'm seeing the lifestyle that they have.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very quickly I started getting like a little bit of like disconnect of like, oh, how long and what will I have to do to get to where I want?
Right.
You know,
Right.
I want things quick.
Yeah. As we do in this part of the world.
And so, you know, my parents, they did always leave the door open for me to go into the business. But like, I also didn't see like, you know, where I fit into like the family business. Like, you know, my parents run it.
Yeah.
You know, are they going to give me a restaurant? Or am I going to cash? Or am I going to serve tables? What am I going to do?
So let's put this in context for our audience, right? Vinesh comes from a family of entrepreneurs. Parents own a restaurant. Your father started at a very young age, right? It's a fixture in the community. It's still a fixture in the community, right? So that's why I asked the question, like, was there an opportunity? Did you think about an opportunity there to go and work for them and maybe learn the business and maybe do something after that? Or you were just kind of like, no, you know what? I think I'm going to learn this corporate Canada thing. I'm going to lean into it a little bit further.
Yeah, I think my parents also instilled where they kind of wanted us to have our own thing. Like they paid a lot for our education.
Yeah.
They wanted us to turn that into something.
Yeah.
And they said like the restaurant's always here. Like if you know, if you want to come back and do this, like, you know, we'll talk about it. So I didn't feel any pressure to go into the restaurant stuff. Okay. And I thought like, you know, what I was doing would complement that. And so, you know, and over the years I did help them, you know, with marketing and advertising, and not in like a professional job sense all my life. But yeah.
Okay. So now you're in corporate Canada, you're getting the hang of things. Did you get a sense, because I know when I joined, you know, the ad business, it wasn't very diverse, right? So was it diverse when you got into it?
It wasn't that diverse. Okay. And I did notice, you know, like obviously as the higher you go up the ladder, the less diverse it became.
Yes.
So that was something I did recognize early on. Yeah.
So being of West Indian descent, right? Born in Canada, right? Raised in Canada, Ajax, right? Did you ever feel that you had to act a certain way? Like, you know, like, I mean, this obviously, as you come through, you know, elementary school, then you get into high school, and I'm sure high school is far more diverse, and then you get to choose your friends at university, right? And then college. So now you're in this work environment. You don't necessarily choose the people you're working with, right? Did you find, was there any challenges there being of West Indian descent versus being with primarily Canadian, you know, cohort of people?
Yeah, I yes, there was. And like, this started from obviously when I went to school, and even more so a private school at that. So I think it's like, is this something that we got used to, you know, over time? And so by the time like I started working, you know, it's something that I noticed, and I think it was ever present, but it's also like second nature that like, I'm like flipping this like switch, you know, like maybe I'm not 100% being my West Indian self.
Right. So we code switching is where I was going with this, right? Yeah. We code switch, we wear a mask, right? We got to understand when to turn it on, to turn it off, right? And it's something that we just have to deal with and live with, right? So interesting. And thank you for the transparency on that, because I think it's important to realize that in order to navigate, or I like to say stick handle your way through things, right? Sometimes you're almost forced to feel as though you have to do that. And so I'm really interested, you know, looking forward to you know, to the younger generations, right? Gen Z, you know, if they're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
I like, to caveat though, like I am now seeing that like, that's actually our strength.
I love that.
Is who we are.
I love that.
You know, not just like adding diversity to the workplace and but like honestly, truly being yourself. And West Indian people, in whatever culture you are, like, you know, there are a lot of strengths that are unique, semi-unique to like, you know, your culture and where you come from. And I know like Trini people are very, very hardworking people. They like to play hard as well. They like to party, but they're like, you know, very laid back and chill. That's how like people, I think for the most part, define like Trinidadian people. And to be able to bring that into the workplace, I think that's what like helped me to get to where I am today.
I love that, man. That's a great answer, you know, because I think like so much of our time is spent thinking about this and maybe hiding that part of yourself. But for you to stand up today and go, you know what, that's a strength, you know, and I'm proud of that. right? And so that to me says it all, right? How long you been in the ad business now?
I don't know the exact number, but I think it's 10 years or close to 10. I would say 8 to 10 years, somewhere in between there.
Do you see yourself retiring in this industry?
That depends on who's listening. Listen,
I mean, it's who you are today.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you could change, but I mean, do you see? And the reason I asked that question specifically to our industry is because I believe, and it's just my opinion, right, that I don't really see a lot of people retiring in our industry.
Yeah. I love the industry that I'm in right now.
Good.
There's a lot of things that I like about it. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, but I think I would always keep like one foot in as long as there's opportunities that appeal to me. So I'm like, without getting into the business that I have right now, that's something that I want to.
We're gonna get there.
Yeah,
gonna get there.
keep under my belt. But yeah, there's just like a lot of great opportunities. I love working with big brands. So as long as I can, and like small businesses as well. But like I do think that I'll always have some part in the industry.
I think, one of the things that made me feel this connection with you, right, is that we share a mindset, right? And the mindset I think is just so important to me, and I'm hearing it from you, and you can tell me whether you agree with me or not, right? But I think it's also the common denominator among immigrants that come to this country, right? And what I'm getting to is like the power of possibility, right? I believe it's the reason, immigrants even come to this country.
Yeah.
Right? It's because they're leaving their place of origin and they have to have the power of possibility that wherever they're going, the life could possibly be better. Right? So where do you land on that? Do you believe in that? Do you believe in the power of possibility?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think this even makes more sense for like my parents' generation and the generation before them. But I think it's much easier now to be successful anywhere. And I don't think you necessarily need to move somewhere else to open up that opportunity. However, it could help.
Okay.
And I think, I don't know, like I do see people in my family, for example, like moving back to Trinidad.
Older or younger or in between?
Both, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I think that's just like interesting. It's like, you work so hard to like get away from there, but then you realize like, I don't know, maybe that's where your roots are and that's where.
Well, there's definitely a sentiment that's been circulating with people questioning just, where they want to spend the rest of their life and what kind of lifestyle that they want.
Yeah. And how you want to live. It's just like, it's so funny that like, I look at people in my family who like work so hard again to move away from where they came from. But like, you work all year super hard to pay for a vacation to go back to an island and spend time on a beach. Like you came from that's where you came from.
That's interesting. But, I also believe that there's a couple of things. I don't know when's the last time you've been back to Trinidad, but my parents are being of Asian descent, right? And there's a level of comfort that you feel when you go back, even though I'm not, I wasn't born there, right? But there's a level of comfort. So that's the first thing. Like you get to go back, quote unquote, home, right, and feel that level of comfort. And there's also, I think, if I'm gonna be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? If I'm gonna look at it and go, cynical is the word I was looking for. That it's your redemption.
Yeah.
Right? Like you get to go back home and go, hey man, I can afford to come back home. Right? And when I come back home, I can put money back into this community. I can put money back onto the island. Right? And it just feels good.
Yeah. I was in an Uber the other day and I was just talking to the driver and asking him, or he was telling me how he came to this country with his family, like I think like 4 or 5 years ago. And I was asking him like, like, how's it been? How do you like it here? And his honest answer to me was he doesn't.
Yeah.
And, it's just not the dream that I was sold that it would be.
Hearing a lot
he doesn't get to spend time with his family. They're like living in a basement and his family is waiting all day for him to come home to spend quality time together. By the time he gets home, he's too tired.
Yeah.
And he just said like, it costs so much to live. So he's working all the time, and the things that mean something to him are
His core values.
Yeah, his core
Right?
values.
So family being one of them.
Family being one of them. He didn't have anymore. So he was seriously considering just moving back and just making his life back, where he had come from. So,
you can only get this, these data points by actually having these conversations, right? And having them, and as I increasingly have them outside of my own little tight circle, you're hearing more and more of that from people, right? That they're just not getting to live the life that they truly want to live, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big challenge today. I want to switch gears a little bit and really talk about your life as an entrepreneur, right? And what gave you the courage to be an entrepreneur? And did you draw that strength from just seeing your parents doing it?
Yeah. I think my parents' lifestyle kind of set the standard for what I wanted.
Okay.
Growing up. And so, for example, when we were younger, we used to go on vacations all the time. And this would be one day my dad's like, do you guys want to go on vacation next week? And I'm like, oh, we have school. He's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll pull you out of school. We'll go on vacation. And just at the drop of the hat, we can do whatever we want. And, and then I started working in this world of structure. You have to ask for time off and whatever. So I always had in the back of my head, I want to be a business owner. And, maybe that entails working 24/7 versus a 9-to-5, but there's more flexibility there. There's more freedom in my mind anyway. So yes, I was inspired by my own family to be entrepreneurial. However, being entrepreneurial is not easy. So I tried a number of things over the years, and I tried doing a web development business, and I was looking into just reselling a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And which all failed because it takes a lot of perseverance and passion behind what it is that you're doing
and
to
luck.
be successful.
And
luck and timing is everything and things like that. So I was knocked down several times on things that I tried and felt kind of cornered into I'm just gonna have to work for someone. But it was something I was always getting up and brushing myself off on and trying again. So
it's interesting. There's a quote that I love, and I believe it's from Winston Churchill, and it says, success is going, from failure to failure with enthusiasm. Right?
Yeah.
Because every time you try something and you fail, you learn something. You should learn something from it, and that be a data point, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's definitely right. And where I am right now is really and truly an accumulation of all my failures.
Yeah, of course.
And everything that I've learned, coming together.
So for context, can you share with us what that business is?
Yeah, so it's probably the most niche business for photography, but it's basically doing photo and video for the advertising industry, more specifically the out-of-home industry. So there is a need, obviously, for award submissions, high quality photo and video. And that's, for internal purposes, for vendors, for clients. So that's our specialty.
I remember you and I sitting down having lunch. I think it was at Baxter's Landing. And you told me about this idea, right? And I was like, okay, that's really cool. Because I know photos, I know it's something that's needed.
Yeah.
And you told me who you were going to work with it, work on this project and see if you can get it going. And I was like, wow, okay, that's super cool. I think if I can help you in any which way, I will help you.
Yeah.
Right. And then you did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was an idea I sat on for a while.
Yep.
And it's definitely a need that I saw growing in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And like any other business, you're solving a need.
Yep.
I just didn't know there was scale of this particular need in the industry until I started at an agency and grew in my career, where I was working on more clients, bigger clients, and seeing that this was a request that was coming in regularly,
right.
And no one wanted to take on the responsibility of dealing with it.
Right.
So I thought it was kind of crazy that there was no real simple solution to something that, everyone needs.
So Well, and being on the vendor side, 9 times out of 10, the vendors never want to spend the money to do it, right? So,
Yeah.
so when did you launch?
I launched, so my business partner and I officially launched the company. I think it was like a week or two before COVID. It's like a perfect timing. And to boot, I quit my 9 to 5 job to make this work. So I figured the only way I'm going to make this work is if my back is against the wall, quit my job and go full force into it.
So I chuckled because you launched in a pandemic for out of home in a time when out of home or outdoor advertising fell off the cliff.
Yeah, it was like the one freak thing that could have happened that would absolutely destroy the industry, and it happened. But it's like, honestly, like the story of my life is just like just the worst luck possible.
Timing is everything, right?
Yeah,
timing is everything. So then there's a company that gets launched, and they have a real need for it, right? And then all of a sudden, you start to see things turning around. But did you ever think you should just stop and just go, wait a second, I'm going to wait for all of this to pass and then maybe revisit it again?
Yes. So, I mean, it's not that I wanted to like completely stop the business, but I really truly did question, obviously in that moment, whether or not that was the right decision to make, if there was like a real business there to be had. And during COVID, I actually diverted like all of my energy into building out like an online food delivery platform for my parents' business.
I remember that.
And so that had done obviously really well during COVID.
Yep.
Nearing the end of COVID, it didn't do very well. And it just became like a very like risky and just high financial stress venture to take on.
Okay.
And something that I just didn't think that I could handle at the time. So it just so happened, like obviously coming closer to the end of COVID, we got our opportunity in the industry to work with a client who kind of just gave us like the stepping stones to build out the business. And it's been like a slow and steady thing, but it's probably the best thing that I've done in my life.
Wow. Okay. I read a book, and it's called Life in Transition by Bruce Feiler. And in his book, he says, you can't plan for life quakes, right? That's the things that go wrong, right? Like the pandemic, for example. Mm-hmm. So how do you approach life now, right? With the unknown, personally and professionally, right? I mean, professionally now you're telling me you've had enough data points of things you started and didn't work out, right? But you dust yourself off and you keep going, right?
Yeah.
But is it a mindset that you have? Do you have to remind yourself of it? Or, like how do you find the strength, the fortitude, I like to say, to keep going?
Yeah. I have my best friend. He's also a business owner, and him and I just laugh all the time about just the stuff that we've gone through, both professionally and personally, and how the things that we deal with regularly are that would basically crumble your average person.
Yeah,
we're able to just like brush it off and just keep moving forward. So I think it's like dealing with that type of stuff is kind of like my forte now.
Okay.
But it's really obviously taking a time to recalibrate like your priorities when things happen. So it's definitely like a mindset of realizing it's not, whatever's happening is not the end of the world, unless it's literally the end of the world.
You think you got that from your parents, like being business owners themselves?
Right? Yeah. Like,
or partially.
Yeah, the mental fortitude for sure.
Yeah.
Owning a restaurant is not an easy thing, and it would
right?
blow your mind with the types of stuff that they have to deal with on a regular basis on like just on every level. So I did see that through them. And then, going through stuff in life, I've seen how my parents have dealt with struggle in their life as well.
Yeah.
And so, I do compare whatever it is I'm going through to that. And I think one of my life mottos really is, when it comes to bad stuff happening, is like I stop in that moment and ask myself, what is the worst thing that could happen right now? or like out of this situation? Like, what is the worst possible thing that could happen? And usually it's not that bad.
Wow. I'm so glad you're saying, that specifically. You're saying a lot of good stuff in our conversation, but that specifically because, I'd like to believe that there's going to be somebody that's going to listen to this, right? That's going to hear that, as an entrepreneur, you struggled, you failed, you got back up, dusted yourself off, kept going, and you have the mindset to say, what's the worst that can happen?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because so many times, like our ego, fear, guilt, shame, all these things, will take over, and you refuse to dust yourself off and go off, right? And do it again. But you're showing as a young man, right? In his 30s, that you've got that, that mindset, that strength, right? And I think the audience really needs to hear it, man. Because, one of the things that I really think about, and I thought about a lot in my life, was like that word called success,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how that dovetails to, if you fail, then do I feel like a failure? Like, if this business doesn't work out, am I not successful? Right? So for me, the definition of success is the favorable or prosperous termination of attempts or endeavors, the accomplishment of one's goals. To me, on this part of the world, I believe that success is our social currency, right? And if we don't have it, then we struggle to belong, right? How do you feel about that? Like, do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think it's a partial part of your social currency.
Yeah.
And for different people, more or less so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel that all the time. And I've gone through some like just dark moments in my life where I'm like, I felt like I was so far away from achieving success, and what I thought the success for me was going to happen earlier on in my life. When that didn't actualize, I was very, very hard on myself. And I think, everyone has, their own personal potential. It's like, am I going to reach my personal potential?
Yeah.
And the road has been tough.
So does success mean something different to you today than it did a decade ago?
Yeah. I think.
What does it mean?
Like, success to me is really, and you'll hear tons of people say this, but I truly do believe it is just freedom. And it doesn't mean freedom from like working.
Right.
It's freedom to spend time with your family, your friends. It's freedom to do the things that you love. It's freedom to work and make money doing things that you care about. So obviously I do want to make a lot of money in my lifetime, but I want that to be able to afford freedom, because if I'm strictly just working day in, day out,
right,
and not being able to enjoy the things that I care about in life, then, that doesn't really mean success to me.
So success is not necessarily a destination, right? For you, right? Because you said, I want to make a lot of money, but you've also said, in our conversation today, that spending time with, loved ones and family is important to you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the process, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. So does that make you feel successful now? At this very moment, do you feel successful?
I think I'm on a journey. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. But I think I have my moments where I don't feel successful because I'm not at the destination of where I want to be. Although, like, to be clear, like, I'm not even sure exactly what that destination is.
It's okay.
It's something that I'm still like figuring out. But I do feel successful in the sense that I have a path that I've created for myself. I know where I want to be, at least right now in this moment.
Yeah.
And, every day I'm just chipping away and working towards moving in that direction. And so I think a lot of times people feel defeated or just in a negative space when you feel like you're not going anywhere and you're not, progressing towards your goals. So I do strongly feel that I'm progressing towards what my goals are. And that in itself, brings me happiness and feels like success. I'm having little successes day after day, week after week. I have tons of setbacks, but incrementally, it's adding up to where I want to be.
And thank you for that, because I think one of the things that I never really thought about was the word fulfillment, right? And so, and its relationship to success, right? And its relationship to happiness. You know what I mean? And I think when we think of success, I say we a lot, but when I thought about success, it was like, what title did I have? How much money did I have? Where did I live? How much money do I have in the bank? Like this, it's all this material stuff, right? But what we're really talking about, right, is a feeling that you have, right? So, that when I say that feeling of happiness that's derived from fulfillment, right? Then when you get that, then you can draw the dotted line straight to success.
Yeah. And I think I'm not void from having moments where I feel like, I'm comparing myself to other people.
Or the comparison culture. Yeah.
Or you're looking at like social media, or like I catch myself and I'm like, oh, shouldn't I have like a nicer car now? Or like, or, should I be, can I buy something at like H&M or Walmart and not feel weird about it? Or like, am I at a point in my life where I'm like only supposed to be like, I don't know. It's like, I catch myself in those moments, where I'm trying to like socially validate myself.
Yep.
With objects, material things to represent success. But like, you get those things and within 30 seconds, a day, a week, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
It's fleeting. 100%, man.
Yeah.
100% that it's fleeting. Right. And so that's what's so very important to me now, because, I read once that unhappy people live in the past. Overachievers live in the future, right? And the happiest people live in the present moment, right? So if we're constantly thinking about what we don't have, or we're comparing ourselves to people, then we're wishing for things, right, in the future, right? And if we're beating ourselves up on the stuff that went wrong in the past, we're never happy, right? So what I've learned on this journey so far is that I've got to consciously remain present.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I don't remain present, that's when all the weird stuff that happens between the ears goes on, right?
Yeah. I think you and I have probably been reading and watching and listening to the same stuff.
Well, this is good, man.
But yeah, I know I shared like the exact same sentiment, but it is very hard to live in the moment and not focus or worry about like what the future holds, or like focus on the things that happened in your past that you feel might be holding you back. But it's really being like accountable for yourself and just living in the moment and not making excuses for anything.
So here's the thing. It took me a lot longer to figure that out than clearly you. So, kudos to you for having that mindset, man, because it took me a lot longer to get to that point.
Yeah. But realizing it is one thing, and practicing it is another.
Sure, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's always a work in progress. So you're catching yourself.
For sure, I am too, right? Like, but that's what life, in my opinion, should be. It should be a work in progress. Goes back to what I said earlier about us evolving.
Yeah.
Right. And learning and trying to, better ourselves, right? And how we spend our time on this planet.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about your superpower, because I believe that everybody has a superpower, and it's a thing that you're extremely good at. And if you had to describe your superpower, what would it be?
I honestly think mine would be is my sense of empathy. So I think I have like a unique ability to very easily put myself in other people's shoes.
Okay. And,
that obviously leads to me being able to understand that person.
Yep.
If say that person is doing me wrong or has said something, it's like, but it's just helped me immensely in terms of networking, building relationships on the business side of things, with my personal relationships. But I honestly think that my superpower is very easily being able to put myself in someone else's shoes and see what it is that they're going through. And if I can't see it on the surface, it's like getting to know people on a deeper level and getting that understanding.
Wow. Wow. I love that. I love that. I really do. Our time is nearing the end, right? And I always end the podcast with a question, right? And the question is, at the end of your life journey, what do you want to be remembered for?
Just my character, who I was as a person, not necessarily my accomplishments, but I just want, my family and my friends and my kids and whatever
Kids, oh my
generations,
God, we even talked about that. Whoa.
future kids or whatever it is. I just want them to look at me or think of me as someone who had just a lot of great qualities as a human being and just spread kindness and good gesture to the world and the people around them. Empathy. Yeah.
Yeah. Hard work.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I do is I always do quotes. And, last week's podcast, I had 3 different quotes and I couldn't, as I'm going through it, I was like, I don't know which one I'm going to do. And then I landed on, and then this week I couldn't land on just one. Right. So I've got these 2 quotes and I wanted to read them to you. Right. Because I think they kind of capture who I thought of you. And now I have even more quotes that I could probably think that would resonate with you. But the first one is, don't wait for an opportunity, create it. Right. And that was George Bernard Shaw. And I think, you kind of spoke to that today. Not kind of, you did. Right. You created when we're talking about the business that you have for photography, right? You saw, right, that there was a need and you created that. Right. So you didn't wait for an opportunity for somebody to say, hey, will you do this? You created it. Like you brought it to life, right? It was your vision and you did it. And then the second one is, he who is not courageous enough to take risk will accomplish nothing in life. And that was by the great Muhammad Ali. And I think that not only captures you, but it captures your family. That taken risk, continue to take risk, right? And keep one foot in front of the other, man, with a smile on his face, by the way. So this is how I see you. This is the energy that you give. This is the legacy I see that you're building, man. You right?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. First of all, it's an honor for you to associate those 2 quotes with myself. But I do strongly resonate with what you're saying and try to live by that every single day.
I see that, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, life is not easy and it's getting more and more difficult as time goes by, I think, for new generations. And it's important to just be true to who you are, know who you are, and take the time to sit down and answer the same questions that you were asking me here today.
Yeah.
And it'll help guide you, throughout your life journey.
I like that.
And find whatever it is you call success. So,
I like that. I like that. So to our listeners, I hope today's episode would not only inspire you, but motivate you to believe in what's possible, because this young man here is telling me today that he believes in what's possible and he lives a righteous life. So thanks again, Vinesh, for coming on board and doing this podcast with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right,
Paul.
man. Love.
All right. Love, man.
Thank you for tuning into the Who Project today. I hope our conversation has sparked a fire within you to reflect on your core values and the intentional choices that will define your journey. If you felt inspired by this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a boost of inspiration. Remember, your values are your guiding star. Let them lead you to a life brimming with purpose and fulfillment. Until next time, I'm PG, urging you to lead with what truly matters to you the most. And before I sign off, I want you to remember this. When you define who you are, you will discover the success you deserve.